That Flèche Wallonne 2025 was a race that Tadej tried to redeem himself in, and let me guess, you didn't actually know that it just happened around 1 hour ago. A lot of people really didn't hear about this race, and again, Tadej was kind of laying low for this one. I think his goal here was to try and get revenge after being defeated by Matthias around a few days ago. In this race, Remco Evenepoel was also towing the line, and Remco was in his last race he did as well. So what happened? Firstly, let's take a look at some of the crazy gradients. This last climb was brutal, and it was around 5 hours into the race, Tadej decided that he needed to go or he was going to lose. There are a couple of contenders who were a big threat, however Tom Pidcock ended up messing up his gear changes and apparently almost unclipping accidentally, and we also had Remco Evenepoel positioning himself badly. There was also an aggressive move made by another rider, but most of the time you had great positioning from Tadej. He was never ever floating away from second or third place, giving him a clear line to victory and not really allowing anyone to overtake him. The commentators of the race actually mentioned a really interesting thing, is that Tadej and his competitors, his teammates as well, were setting really high watts up this climb, which meant that Tadej was actually having it full to his advantage. Everyone behind him, as you can see, they're two abreast, but they're strung out like crazy. They can't even keep up, you guys. One rider decided to make a move, and I believe this rider was Healy. Now Healy decided to go for it, but it just wasn't going to happen. Instead, it ended up triggering Tadej and kind of making him giggle a bit, like, you think you can try me? Well, Healy tried to burst to something like 900 watts or 800 watts, and Tadej was like, oh, that's cute, and immediately drops well over 1000 watts up of one of the tight bends. Now this was the exact moment where he dropped that crazy increase. First of all, it doesn't look like he's actually pushing hard, but when I switch to the next freeze frame, you're going to see exactly where he made the increase. Now, I think that the climb where he did his attack was around 20% gradient. However, the commentators didn't exactly mention what it was. Tadej must have strategically picked this part of the course to inject his final attack, and I think it's fair to say that if this didn't work, then pretty much nothing was going to work. If Tom Pidcock or Remco were able to keep with him over this last attack, he was cooked, because the finishing stretch pretty much had Remco Evenepoel's name written all over it. Here is the steep incline where Tadej made his attack. This was bonkers, you guys. If you've seen the footage, he literally just pulls away from them and leaves the entire peloton standing as if they are just not even moving at all. Within a space of about 4 seconds, this was the gap he made. It is bonkers. It's a difference between 800 watts and 1500 watts. It is absolutely bonkers, and some of you guys were actually there during the race, I know, and comment down below if you were and let me know what it was like, because everyone was saying Tadej looked like he had been to a war. He had massive black eye circles and looked like he'd just absolutely destroyed his adrenals while on the bike. Tadej finally realizing he has won it, but don't get me wrong, he is totally gassed. This guy is absolutely howling out his behind. He has put in a very aggressive effort, and he definitely maxed himself out over that last few 100 yards to the finish line. This was a great show of tactical awareness. He did not race this 100% flat out from the start. Instead, Tadej decided to win it, quote unquote, the easy way. This is what I like to call the easy tactical way of winning, where you just leave it to the last minute. It happens in a lot of other sports, more notably long distance running or marathon running, where an athlete will try and win the race by expending the least amount of energy possible. So this is a pretty efficient way, especially if you think about it. In my last video, I don't know if Tadej maybe watched the video, where I said that he was actually over racing, and that's partly to blame. I mean, partly him, partly UAE. Some people say that he chooses what races he wants. Other people say Team UAE choose. Look, listen, we're never going to have access to their contract. That's private. I mean, we'll never know, so we can only come up with theories and speculations and our own personal opinions. Here we have second place runner-up. I'll just bring up the results any second now if you guys want to see, because I know some of you are interested where Tom Pidcock finished, where Remco finished, who was the runner-up, who was third, fourth, fifth, etc. This was Tadej winning the race in just over 4 hours and 50 minutes. He looked totally gassed at the top, as if that last little injection of pace had destroyed him at the final moments. The crowd were going pretty crazy. I was surprised there was such a big turnout considering the weather was awful. It was very wet, very rainy, not too much wind. The course itself was pretty sheltered, which was good, but it was pretty hilly. So as expected, Tadej was going to do really well in this race. Here are the top 4 results. We had a big finish from Tom Pidcock after he ended up, well, somehow recovering from messing up his gear change. I saw him up the climb, the part where it turns to 20%, and I was wondering why he just slowed down. Around 2 riders went ahead of him, and immediately he just started to lose places within a second or two. And somehow he managed to recover. He had enough time to kind of regroup, get back together, and start to increase his watts efficiently. So we had Lenny in 4th place. We had Kevin in 2nd. Again, Tadej made around a 10-second lead. Tom was 12 seconds behind, and then there was a 1 second gap between Tom and Lenny in 4th place. So no signs of Remco Evenepoel in the top 4. Remco just couldn't keep up, maybe tired from last week's race where he came close to really kicking hard against Tadej, but Matthias came out victorious and neither Tadej or Remco won that one. I'm going to be honest, I have made a video in the past where I think Tadej is probably racing too much, but it's races like these that make me realize it doesn't really matter, because if he races them in this style with this strategy and tactics, he won't get tired. Okay, of course he looked like absolute crap at the end of the race, I get it, but the truth is that he was conserving himself and he was almost just practicing good tactics for Tour de France. He's going to need this against Mathieu van der Poel. He's going to need this against Jonas Vingegaard if Jonas is actually on top form and can somehow get back from his crash and his accident. I made a video on Jonas around 2 days ago. If you want to see that, then check out my videos on my channel. A lot of people are saying that Jonas is completely cooked, so I made a video kind of reacting to that with a structured breakdown on my opinions. There is still a chance for Jonas, but overall I think Tadej has the Tour de France in the bag already. The only threats to him really are probably Van der Poel. Van der Poel is going to be doing a mountain bike race between now and the Tour de France, so I guess he'll be working on more stamina, more endurance, again more climbing ability, but it does baffle me why he would do that and not stay more specific and just do a couple more road races before then. What do you guys think? Comment down below your opinions, leave a like on today's video, and yeah, subscribe if this is your first time here, as I'll post all the latest cycling news, cycling drama, cycling race results, etc. Catch you guys in the next video.